That former city manager Robert Rizzo has been in a medical facility and hasn't really even had a chance to review the charges against him. But as we all know, of course, he was still in court today. Day 2 of seeing former Bell City manager Robert Rizzo, this time seeming to nap during court proceedings in a downtown L.A. courtroom. Rizzo appeared with 7 other Bell officials, some in orange jumpsuits and handcuffs, none really showing much emotion today, all charged in a salary scandal that broke back in July. The Bell 8, which includes the mayor of Bell, the vice mayor, city manager, and his assistant, plus 2 former and 2 current city council members, collectively face 159 charges.
The nature of the charges in this case demonstrate very serious alleged criminal activity.
56-year-old Rizzo is charged with the most, 53 counts of misappropriation of public funds, falsifying documents, and conflict of interest. His attorney arguing his bail set too high. It was reduced today to $2 million. This man, Luis Artiga, a Bell preacher and city councilman, posted $120,000 bail today and was released. So was Teresa Jacobo, who served as vice mayor. Her bail set at $260,000. Both were picked up in personal vehicles. Residents of Bell who have followed the scandal since it broke rejoiced outside the courthouse today, some bittersweet.
Oh, I think they look really nice in orange. They look good.
We don't want you guys to think that the city of Bell is a cold city. We are saddened by what we saw up there, but it is the wheels of justice that will bring justice to these people.
Now, you are looking live tonight at the county jail. There is an issue surrounding the bail of the remaining 6. Many of them are charged with those charges against them have something called a hold. It's basically a 1275, and that means that they will have to prove to the judge that the money that they actually use for their bail is coming from a legal source. And Micah, also that arraignment has been postponed now until October 21st. So that is the next time we will see these guys and one woman back in the courtroom. Reporting live from downtown, back to you in the studio.
Lou Parker, thank you. Bell's accused corruption czar, Robert Rizzo, is a man of many faces, but judging from his demeanor at today's first court appearance, he may not be ready to face the music. Jamie Chambers live in Huntington Beach, where Rizzo convinced neighbors he was a savvy public servant. Jamie.
Yeah, Micah, this is Rizzo's house. It's worth about $1.1 million here at Huntington Beach. But neighbors say he was a bit of a grump, didn't talk a lot, kept to himself. Yesterday he walked down these stairs, but this time he wasn't a powerful city manager. This time he was a prisoner. It's been a stunning fall from a once nameless city manager to now the most infamous local official in California. This is a picture of Rizzo with his wife during the glory times. But just yesterday, what started with an LA Times story ended with police knocking at the door. In court, Rizzo is seen wearing a dark jumpsuit, which signifies he's been in the medical ward. Rizzo seems to fall asleep, and James Spiritus, Rizzo's attorney, says his client is so sick he can't even understand what he's being charged with. But is this just a setup for a defense? We asked this to our legal expert, Manny Medrano.
It is possible that a lawyer may say, well, let's see if we can just garner ourselves more time, and maybe if there is some medical issue that's wrong with you, well, that'll put off the case for a little bit. But it's a high hurdle to convince a judge that you are not competent to face criminal charges.
Rizzo is facing 53 counts of misappropriation of taxpayer funds. And now, in new court documents, investigators have revealed that Rizzo was attempting to hide his roughly $1.5 million in compensation by getting false signatures from former city officials to cover his tracks. According to investigators, he worked with impunity for years, pulling in roughly twice what the president makes in Rizzo's salary alone. Neighbors say they thought he was just a savvy businessman.
So I thought, okay, good for him. You know, he made some good investments, maybe inherited some money, you know, whatever.
And why not? From what Rizzo told his neighbors, his city of Bell was on a roll.
They were improving the city parks. They were improving different services in the city. And I thought, walking away from that conversation, I thought, oh, this guy sounds like a pretty good manager.
Rizzo is facing as many as 58 years behind bars. Neighbors say he has a 3-year-old daughter, and if he is convicted on all counts, he may never have a chance to see her grow up. But I did want to show you this one thing, Mike. Looking at the front of his house, Rizzo does get the paper but he won't get a chance to see himself on the cover. From Huntington Beach, I'm Jamie Chambers. We'll send it back to you.
Jamie Chambers, thank you. As for the money, some eyebrow-raising numbers from Bell today as state auditors revealed the facts from their investigation into the mishandling of funds. The numbers tonight from Glenn Walker.
Over the top.
He's done his fair share of audits, but State Controller John Chang's initial look into how former City Bell manager Robert Rizzo, in court today with 7 others, pilfered city coffers, surprised even him.
Basically, he was running the city into the ground.
Among the highlights of Chang's audit, Bell collected $5.8 million by doubling trash and sewer fees for residents and license fees for business owners. Still not enough to cover the $5.8 million in salaries of the mayor, city council, and 6 city administrators. While Rizzo took $93,000 to repay personal loans, he also loaned out $1.5 million to other city workers. The city also paid out $10.4 million in development fees to companies owned by the city's Director of Planning Services. So where did all that money come from? In 2003, voters here approved $50 million in bond funds with no plans on how to use it. There was talk of building a sports complex, but we could only find a skateboard park. Now, Controller Chang told me he did discover that $23.5 million from that $50 million bond still existed. It was in a special account, an account bearing 0 interest.
Because obviously they didn't care about fiscal prudence. They weren't acting as responsible fiduciaries. They were, in essence, wasting money.
That brings us to the intersection of Gage and Atlantic here in Bell, and this old Western auto store, once owned by former Bell Mayor Pete Werlein. The city paid $4.8 million for this property. As you can see, they've done a lot with the place.
We found a rat's nest there. Obviously, there's a lot more.
Glenn Walker reporting. Stay with KTLA, KTLA.com, and the LA Times, your source for continuing coverage of the Bell busts. We'll bring you any new developments as they happen. Lawyers for Frank